Welcome to AI for Good, the leading, action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations Agency for Digital Technologies, in partnership with 40+ UN sister organizations and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to identify innovative applications, build skills and standards, and advance partnerships to solve global challenges. In today's AI for Good event, we are counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished facilitators and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone, it's very exciting to start another webinar organized by the Quantum Coalition and the International Telecommunication Union. The Quantum Coalition is a global network of student-led quantum computing organizations united by a shared mission to make quantum education accessible and collaborative. In partnership with the International Telecommunication Union, we proudly co-host the Future Leaders in Quantum Virtual Hackathon, an inclusive platform that empowers students worldwide to explore and shape the future of quantum technologies. This particular session explores the innovative world of quantum chess, a game that blends traditional strategy with quantum phenomena like superposition and entanglement. It will dive into how quantum chess is designed, how it introduces complex concepts in an accessible and engaging way, and how gamified learning tools can support quantum education. Let's hear about this.
So hello everybody. My name is Tamás Varga. I would like to welcome everybody. Let me quickly share my screen. Just a moment. Here it is. Okay, can you see my screen, David?
Yes, I can see it.
Great. Okay, then I will start. So I'm very happy to be here, and today I will talk about how to teach quantum information and quantum physics through the game of chess. So here is the brief outline of the talk. First, I will give a short introduction, and then I will present a quantum effect with light, and this quantum effect will later motivate the quantum moves on the chessboard, and then I will demonstrate how this game can be used for teaching in schools. So the quick introduction, just some words about me. So my name is Tamás Varga. I am a software engineer by training. I have more than 15 years of experience in the financial sector, and my passion is quantum software engineering. I also did postdoctoral research for about 1 year in this topic. And finally, I am also active in quantum technology education. I created the website qedulab.com, where I post educational material targeted mostly towards IT people. However, I also wanted to be able to explain the foundational concepts of quantum mechanics to a wider audience, even to people who don't have a technical background, and also for children. And this is how Niels chess was born. So Niels chess is a quantum variant of chess that I will talk about in the next 1 hour. So here is Niels chess. So what is it? It is chess with quantum rules. As you can see here, it has the same initial position as normal chess, and the normal chess moves and rules apply. However, it also has some additional quantum moves that I will talk about later. And this game can serve as a so-called quantum icebreaker, meaning that people who play this game we'll start talking about quantum effects. And since there is no computer needed, it's a traditional board game. It can really make quantum education accessible anywhere for people with any background, including children who are only 10 years old. And now let's go straight to the quantum experiment. So, okay, first of all, what is quantum physics? So quantum physics describes nature at the atomic and subatomic scales, like atoms, electrons, photons. And you will hear three terms very often. So quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and quantum theory. People usually use these terms synonymously. And you will see that quantum physics is just full of surprises. And I will present you one such surprise very soon. So all we need is a mirror and a light source. So now, if so, the mirror consists of a piece of glass and the metal coating on top of it. Now, if we shine light on the mirror, then the light, as we all know, will be reflected. Now, this was all classical so far. Let's see something different. It's called there is another kind of mirror which is called the half-silvered mirror, which also has glass as before, but the metal coating is sparser. And what happens here when we shine light on this half-silvered mirror, then it will basically split the light. So half of the light will continue upwards. It will be transmitted, and half of the light will continue downwards. That is, it will be reflected. And now comes the quantum part. So today we can shoot just one photon from the light source. So the photon is the particle of light, and it is called also the quantum of light because this is the smallest amount of light we can get. There is no such thing as half of a photon. So let's see what happens. So now the photon reaches the half-silvered mirror, and now this is a bit weird because since the photon is an elementary particle, it cannot be split into half, so it's not really obvious what should now happen. However, nature kind of has a very elegant and ingenious workaround to solve this problem. So what happens is that now the photon will go into a so-called superposition state. At least this is what quantum mechanics tells us. So now the photon is in a superposition state, and it will continue on both paths. It will go upwards, and it will also go downwards. And now we can actually interact with the photon either in this upper path, but we can also interact with the photon in the lower path. And in this sense, we can say that the photon is in two places at the same time, because we can interact with it in these two places. So, and just one more thought, that a similar experiment can be done also with atoms and electrons. We can achieve similar spatial superposition and even with molecules. Some researchers did that in the past decade. So now let's go to the quantum moves on the chessboard. So here is the first example. So I will basically introduce to you the most basic rules of Niels chess. And of course, it will not be complete. We don't have the time for that. But if you know these rules, then you will be in the position to actually try the game. So let's see first the superposition move. So now look at this situation on the chessboard. So white has the move. So now white is, I would say white is not in a very promising situation. So black's position seems stronger. And then, okay, so what can white do? So for example, white can try to attack the queen by moving with the knight on d4, and then it will attack the queen, but this is not that promising because the queen can easily escape. Now white can also try to attack the rook by moving to g5, but also this is not very promising because of the same reasons as before. However, in Niels chess, it is possible that the knight will move to d4 and g5 at the same time, and then it will attack the queen and the rook at the same time. So let's see the move. So this is the move. And now it's important that this is still one knight. This is still one knight, but a bit like the photon before, it is in a weird superposition state where it is on d4 and g5 at the same time. And the superposition state is represented by so-called indefinite pieces. And this is what it looks on the chessboard. So here you can see a so-called indefinite piece. One has a red mark on it, and the other has a blue mark. And whenever you see this on the chessboard, it means that this is one knight in a weird superposition state where the knight is on two squares at the same time. So this is how it is represented on the chessboard. So let's go back. So now you can see this knight attacking two pieces. And since the queen is more valuable, that's why the queen escapes. But now the knight can attempt to capture the rook. And by the way, these indefinite pieces, they can move the same way as the normal chess pieces. So now the knight attacks the rook. And so now the question is what will happen? So according to quantum physics, a superposition state is extremely fragile. So even the slightest interaction with the environment can make it collapse. And here in this situation, collapse will mean, so the knight will collapse, and the collapse will mean that it will end up either on d4 or h7, and it will end up as a normal knight. It will become normal again. However, quantum physics also says that this collapse, it is truly random. So nobody in the universe can tell what the outcome of the collapse will be, whether the knight ends up here on d4 or here on h7. So it is truly random, and in the game, we kind of represent this true randomness by rolling the dice. So now white has to roll the dice, and now it's a 5. So the rule is very simple. Odd number means blue, and even number means red. So 5 is an odd number, and that's why now the knight will collapse on h7, because h7 had the blue mark on it. And with that, the rook has been captured. So white was kind of lucky. And now let's go to a different situation, which is very similar to the previous one, so that I can demonstrate check. So here the same story again. The knight makes a superposition move, and now so it is basically attacking both the king and the queen. and now you know that the black king, is in danger, because in a hypothetical next move, the white knight would have a 50% chance of capturing it. So, and in Niels chess, danger is called check. So if the king is in danger, then the king is in check. So the king now has to move away, has to get out of check. And now, as before, we can attack the queen here. And again, so now the white knight will collapse. So it's truly random. You have to roll the dice. And this time it's a 2. And so now it collapses. So 2 is an even number, and even number means red. So it will collapse onto d4. So now it has collapsed. And now you can see that the black queen has escaped. And now you might think that, okay, this is just gambling, right? Because we are rolling the dice, and if we are lucky, then we capture. If we are not lucky, then we don't. But actually, if you observe, for example, now, although we were not lucky, I mean, white was not lucky, but this knight on d4 is actually protected by the queen on g1. And this means that white's attempt of capturing the queen was actually safer than just gambling. And in Niels chess, it is somehow important that you have to have like a plan B. So what happens if you are not lucky? Are you still protected? So this is also very important. So it is not just about gambling. And now this is an example that I will now give a checkmate. So in normal chess, it is not possible to give a checkmate in just one move, but in Niels chess it is possible. I think you can guess the move. Yes, it is the superposition move. And now you see that the black king is in danger because it's in danger of being captured. And you can see that the black king cannot really move anywhere to get out of this danger. And that's why this is a checkmate. But now you may think, okay, but why do we have this black knight here, right? So what if we just try to capture the rook? So wouldn't this solve the problem of the black king? Unfortunately, this move is not allowed for black. And the reason is because now the white rook would collapse, right? Because now it is bumped into the black knight, and now the white rook would collapse, and then it would have a 50% chance of collapsing here onto c8, and then that would leave black's king in check. And you know, in normal chess, it is not allowed to make a move that would leave your king in check. And in Niels chess, it is not allowed to make a move that would potentially leave your king in check. And since this move here would potentially leave your king in check, that's why, unfortunately for black, this move is not allowed. So this is here really a checkmate, because black has no legal move to get out of danger, to get out of check. So let's go further to entanglement. Now, this is the most complicated rule of the game, actually. So now let's assume that the black knight is already in a superposition, and now white's bishop wants to join this superposition. So white's bishop wants to be in superposition with the knight together. And for this, it has to get into an attacking position. So for example, it has to get here, but in a way that is similar to a superposition move, that it will stay here and move here at the same time. So let's see. So now you see the bishop stayed here and moved here at the same time. And you also see that the marks are now aligned along the same diagonal. And this indicates that these pieces, the knight and the bishop, are entangled. Now, in quantum physics, entanglement means that two physical entities are or seem to be connected, although there is no apparent physical link between them. So now let's try to play the game further to see what this means in practice. So now, okay, let's assume now the knight just moves to c7, and now the bishop moves also to b3, and now let's assume that the knight tries to capture the pawn on h5. So what will now happen? I think you know. Since the knight bumped into the pawn, that's why it will collapse. However, since the knight is entangled with the bishop will also collapse. So they will kind of collapse together. And again, collapse is truly random. So now black has to roll the dice. So we roll the dice, it's a 4. And the rule is again like even number is red, odd number is blue. So 4 is an even number. So now they will collapse to red, red. So E2 and C7. The other possibility would have been if it was an odd number, if we roll a 1, let's say, then it would have been that blue, blue. So the two possibilities are either red, red or blue, blue. So now it will be red, red. So let's see the collapse. And now they have collapsed together, and the pawn on h5 has escaped. So what is really weird here is that if you think about it, it was only the black knight which had a kind of an impact. So only the black knight bumped into something. And the question is that how did the bishop know that it had to collapse to e2 and not to b3? So how did it know? because there was no physical link between them really, or at least it was not apparent. And the thing is that even if the bishop is like 1,000,000 kilometers away from the knight, the same thing would have happened. So the bishop somehow knows where it has to collapse, even if they are very far away. So, and Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. And this is quantum entanglement, and this is perhaps the most puzzling quantum effect that people have the most trouble understanding it. Actually, maybe nobody really understands it, to be honest. Okay, so this was entanglement. And then there is one more rule I want to show you, which is quantum tunneling. So here, black in this example indicates that it wants to tunnel through the pawn. So in the classical world, this wouldn't be possible because the pawn is like a barrier which the rook cannot really overcome because, for example, it doesn't have enough energy to overcome it. But in the quantum world, in the submicroscopic world, it happens regularly that sometimes the physical entity which doesn't have the energy to overcome the barrier, sometimes it may end up on the other side of the barrier. But it has a low probability typically. And that's why it's a random event with a low probability, and that's why it is illustrated in a way that now black has to roll the dice, and black has to roll a 6. So black has to be lucky to actually do this tunneling. So let's see. Okay, now for the sake of the example, black rolled a 6, and now it can tunnel through, and this is a check. And of course, in certain situations, this can be really dangerous for white. So these were the quantum rules, and now I don't know. This can be a good time to ask any question, because after that I will go to teaching.
Yeah,
So-
I have some questions.
Okay.
What was your process in designing the rules or mechanics to reflect, quantum logic while still being playable and fun?
Ooh, so the logic was okay. I mean, the story is that so this is not the only quantum variant of chess, and then it was about 5 years ago when I got to know another variant of quantum chess that was created by I think by some people at a university in the United States. And then I got very excited because it's a very exciting idea. But then I figured out that actually it's very difficult to understand the rules, and that game was a computer game. And that's and then I thought that maybe I can create rules which are simpler to understand and can be played without a computer. Because in that other variant, the situation on the chessboard can get so complex that you really need your laptop to keep track of what is happening. And I just wanted to create something very simple. And for chess, spatial superposition is the most intuitive. That's what the other variant also uses. And yeah, and what is important here that I try to limit entanglement. I told you that the pieces are entangled. Let me go back. So these are now, let me go back here. So the knight and the bishop are entangled. For that, we have to align their marks along the same diagonal. Now, usually the complexity in quantum systems come from entanglement. If we don't set boundaries on entanglement, kind of. And here there is like a natural boundary because there are only two diagonals, right? So either this one or this one. So it can only be ever two groups of entangled pieces on the chessboard, and with this, the game becomes much simpler, basically. Yeah. So basically, the core idea was that I use spatial superposition because it comes natural in chess, and the other idea was to limit entanglement, and of course the third idea was to follow the random collapse, and that's why we have the dice. And then the fourth idea was the quantum tunneling, and I just added it because it's kind of also natural in this context. But yeah, but I didn't add several other quantum effects because, or I didn't add basically any other quantum effects in the official version of the game because I wanted this game not to be too complicated. So I really want pretty much any chess player from the age of 10 to be able to easily learn it. So this was the thinking that I had when I created this game.
Very interesting. And have you tested this in classrooms or workshops with children, or students? What were some of the reactions or outcomes?
I will come to that in the next
Mm-hmm.
section. That will be the next slide, basically. And then I will tell you, I mean, I did.
Okay.
Okay, let me just then continue if you don't have other questions at the moment. Okay, so
You
yeah.
already told about how it was about some problems when translating from like a computer game to a board game. But maybe you also had some extra problems or struggles while working on translating abstract quantum principles into like specific game rules.
Yes, I did have many problems, and okay, I tell you one problem or one example, which is a bit more abstract maybe, but I thought originally, so I started to come up with these rules. It was beginning of 2023, and I thought that, oh, I will make it in 2 weeks, and actually it was 6 months. So so it was these rules seem very easy and simple and natural maybe, but it was really a long process to come up with these rules, and it was really challenging to simplify it to this level. Yeah, this was my main challenge basically.
You also told that you skipped some concepts from quantum mechanics, which you didn't implement. Can you maybe give an example and why you haven't introduced a particular concept into
Okay,
the game?
I will tell you one example, and I will tell you one more example at the end of the talk. So one example that I skipped from the official version at least is quantum interference, because I mean actually I can tell you one more, like also quantum teleportation. So quantum interference and quantum teleportation, because I had the feeling that they wouldn't add too much to the game. So I am basically also restricted by kind of, I call it the spirit of chess. So I still wanted to make a game which looks like chess. And then if I added interference and teleportation, they would have been just too much, I felt. However, I will show you later that actually when you use Niels chess in the classroom, you can actually add some basic interference if you want to. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to teaching. So now I will tell you how this game can be used in teaching. And the interesting thing is that I hear from some people that, okay, but what if the students don't play chess or the teacher doesn't play chess, and then it will not really work because they won't understand what is happening. But here in these examples, you can see that if you want to use it only for teaching in the classroom, let's say, then neither the teacher nor the students need to know the rules of chess, because they can do it in a very generic way, and I will show you that. Okay, so what can you do first? Obviously, you can do outreach activities with this game, and this is what I mean. I did. I had like two sessions with children, very small sessions. So first I had 4 kids aged between 10 and 12, and basically I presented first something to them about atoms, that they can be in spatial superposition, and then I also explained them the rules of the game, and I also gave them lots of chess puzzles. that they really enjoyed. And altogether, it took like less than 4 hours for them to learn the rules, and then they could play the game. Of course, they couldn't play it very well because it needs experience even for me, but they could apply the rules basically. So it was less than 4 hours. And then I did another session with two 14-year-olds. And here I did not introduce too much about quantum mechanics. We just went straight to the chessboard. And then it took less than 2 hours for them to understand everything, or for me to explain. And then they could already play pretty well, especially the one who is an active chess player. He plays in a chess club, and yeah, so it was very demanding to defeat him in our game. So this was my experience with children. And then, okay, this is outreach, but now if there is an educator who wants to take it to the next level, so then the educator can also use it in the classroom, and then we can get a bit more quantitative with the mathematical details, because so far with all these rules and the outreach activity, it really describes certain quantum phenomena qualitatively without too much mathematics. Actually, the only mathematics is rolling the dice basically. But you can also use it for if you want to teach quantum computing. It can be so it can be like a supplementary tool for to make the course more interesting. So now, for example, I will show you how to represent the concept of the qubit with this game. So for those who don't know, a qubit is like a bit, so it can be 0 or 1, but it can also be 0 and 1 in superposition, just like we saw it with the photon. And the qubit is the basic unit of quantum information processing, analogously to the bit, which is the basic unit of classical information processing. And then what you can do is that, so here is part of the chessboard, and then you can basically designate one square that this will be 0. And then this vertical bar and angle bracket, it is just the way of writing the 0 state, kind of. So don't pay too much attention to it. It is just 0, okay, 0. And then we can designate another square, and this will be 1. And now you can say that, okay, so this knight here represents the state 0. And if the knight is here, it represents the state 1. And now if the knight is in superposition, now this is 0 and 1 in superposition, or 0 and 1 at the same time, if you think about photons. So, and you can also get a bit more mathematical. So this is now the mathematical description of the quantum state of the knight, of the position state of the knight. And here, so the educator can introduce amplitudes. So in a superposition, so let's stick with the qubit. So if the qubit is in a superposition, then it means that 0 will kind of participate in this superposition with some amplitude, and 1 will also participate in this superposition with some amplitude. And here, the two amplitudes are equal, and that's why this is called the equal superposition. And the amplitudes are important because from the amplitude, you can calculate the collapse probabilities. So you have to square the amplitude. So here, if you square the 1 over square root 2, it is 1 over 2, which means that if this knight is to collapse, or this qubit is to collapse, then it will have a 50% chance of collapsing to 0. So a 50% chance of collapsing to this square. And also similarly, since it's an equal superposition, it will have a 50% chance of collapsing to this square. So this, but interestingly, in quantum mechanics, the amplitudes don't have to be always positive numbers. And you can also think of amplitudes that it kind of describe in this case that, okay, how much is the superposition 0 and how much is it 1? But it's really just loosely speaking, because the amplitudes can be basically negative numbers. So here is an example. And then here you see, so the educator can actually introduce negative amplitude by simply rotating the knight backwards. This blue mark is kind of rotated by 180 degrees. And in the game, what I showed you before, you see the marks were always pointing towards the opponent. And this means equal superposition. Now, if you take the blue one, the blue piece, and you turn it backwards, then the educator can say that, okay, then this can introduce like the negative, like now the amplitude of one, the amplitude of this branch of the superposition here is -1 over square root 2. David, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So can a piece act as a qubit across multiple squares, like superposition of positions? And how do you resolve this during gameplay?
Oh, so in this game, to keep it simple, and that's also part of the game design, it's only possible to be at most on 2 squares. So I don't allow more than 2 squares because then it would get very, very complicated. Yeah, so I don't know if this answers your question.
I think so, yes. And also one more question. So while thinking about this, did you start with the idea of qubit and work backwards, or did the mechanics naturally lead you there? What was the process?
I mean, it's a bit of a tricky question because before getting to this game, I was studying I had been studying quantum computing for a couple of years. So obviously I knew the concept of qubit, but I would say that, I mean, I basically started with spatial superposition. And when I was making this game, actually, I just wanted to make originally an enjoyable game. And originally, I did not really think about qubits, that, oh, this is like a qubit. I was just thinking that a superposition, what is a superposition? You have like classical states, and each of these classical states has a corresponding amplitude. And this was my way of thinking. So I actually arrived at the qubits later, when some people challenged me that if I can use it in the classroom for expressing concepts in quantum computing and quantum cryptography. Yeah. Originally there was no qubit. Okay. So here so actually this is not part of the original game, right? Because I mean it wouldn't add too much to the game the dynamics of the game in my case, because if you take the square of -1 over square root 2, it is still 1 over 2. So here the collapse probability is still 50% for each square. So this is not really included in the official version of the game, but an educator in the classroom can include it, and you can see here that it is not really important how the knight can move, right? Because all you have to know that there is a knight, and then you put it into a spatial superposition, and you don't have to know the rules of chess for this. Okay, and then okay, this is something else, but here I just want to say that the amplitudes can actually also be complex numbers, and the complex numbers you can maybe an educator can express complex numbers with making like fine-grained rotations of the blue knight, for example, and then you can introduce some phases. Okay, so and now again the educator can say, okay, but if it's a black piece, like a black knight, then you can do the following. Then the same situation that the red mark faces towards the opponent, and the red mark and the blue mark faces towards you, towards the player. Then this can mean like an unequal superposition. So here you see that the amplitude for the zero, or the red amplitude, is greater than the blue amplitude, and this means that the knight would have a chance of 2/3 to collapse here on the red square, and a chance of 1/3 of collapsing on the blue square. So the educator can also do this. And by the way, in the official version, we do have such unequal superposition for both white and black, but because this really adds something to the game dynamic, and you can play with the probabilities. But however, in the classroom, if you want to teach quantum computing, then the educator can say that, okay, then we just go with this, that white, if it's if the marks are aligned like this or oriented like this, then this is like an equal superposition with phase, with this minus sign here. However, if it's black piece, then it will be an unequal superposition, and then you have really everything in the game, kind of. So let's go further, and this is really the next level. That this is like a textbook algorithm to creating the famous EPR pair, the entangled state, and then you can also represent this on the chessboard. You can see you have to designate your square, that this is 0, this is 1. Here for the white, this is 0, this is 1, and then we start in 0, 0, and then we apply the so-called Hadamard gate. And the Hadamard gate, what it actually does, it will just bring the qubit into an equal superposition state, and you can represent it on the chessboard that this is an equal superposition of the black pawn. And now comes the gate which does the entanglement, and now you can represent what will happen. And this is the entangled state. So now the two pawns are entangled. They are in a joint superposition of 0, 0, and 1, 1. So it's a joint superposition of red, red, and blue, blue, as we see before. And now in the final step, we are going to collapse them. We are going to collapse them, and then basically from the amplitude, you see it's an equal superposition. So there is a 1/2 probability that this situation will collapse to either red, red, or blue, blue. And now let's see, it is just random. And now it has collapsed to 1, 1. And if you go back, so the 1, 1 had a 50% chance to be collapsed into, and 0, 0 also had 50% chance, but this was now just random 50-50, and now this was just 1, 1. And this way you can really represent quantum circuits on the chessboard. And this is not that something just like the teacher can do, but the teacher can also challenge the students when they learn a new concept, like a new gate or a new state, that can you represent it on the chessboard? And then this will be like a very unconventional exercise for the students, and they will need some creativity. Maybe they would even have to introduce some new rotations, some new rules, whatever. But it is just a very nice challenge, I think. And again, you don't have to be able to play chess to do this. And then we go to the next topic, is quantum cryptography, just quickly. You can also introduce the basic concepts of quantum cryptography with this chess. So here is one example, shared secret. This is really just the basics of the basics. So now you can see that there is Alice, Bob, and Eve. And this is actually another nice thing about chess, that the pieces can be identified with humans, basically, and then you can tell a story. And this is also a nice feature of chess. So Alice and Bob want to share a secret, but they don't want Eve to know about it. So Eve is the eavesdropper who always wants to know each other people's secrets. And now, so Alice and Bob have a bishop in superposition. By the way, imagine that Alice, Bob, and Eve are in 3 faraway cities, far away from each other. And then what they can do is that, for example, Alice can go ahead and collapse the bishop. And now it is random, right? So it is truly random. Nobody knows what the result would be. So now let's say it collapsed on A4. So Alice basically found the bishop on A4. And with this, Alice will know that if Bob later tries to find the bishop, he will not find it because it has collapsed here. And similarly, if Bob later doesn't find the bishop here, he will know that Alice must have found it. So this will be their shared secret. So they will know that the bishop collapsed to A4. However, Eve doesn't know because, as I said, she is far away, and and this collapse was truly random. So nobody in the universe, not even in principle, can know where this bishop has collapsed. But now in the next situation, so this is sounds like a perfect shared secret. However, Eve can be a bit smarter. So now Eve has a black knight here, and then Eve can actually entangle this black knight with the bishop. So now the bishop and the knight are entangled. And now let's Alice do the same thing. So Alice will just collapse this whole state, but Alice doesn't know that there is a black knight entangled. And now, as I told you before, it can either be red or blue. These are the only possibilities. So now it is just randomly. So let's assume that it again collapsed to a4. But now Eve knows, because Eve can also find the knight on d2, and Eve will know that, okay, then the bishop must have collapsed to a4. And then this way Eve can know the secret of Alice and Bob. And then there is one more thing. So this is really advanced. It's for teachers basically. So you can also try to illustrate a quantum key distribution on the chessboard. For example, here it can be like part of the BB84 protocol. I mean, I guess not everybody will understand what I'm talking about, but the point is here that part of that protocol is that Alice has to send qubits to Bob. And now you can see that I call it flying qubit in the plus state. So the plus state is the equal superposition. And here, as part of the protocol, Alice is sending a qubit to Bob. However, there is also Eve, and again, as you saw before, so Eve may play some tricks. So Eve may try to collapse this qubit or may try to entangle something with it. And the thing is that you can illustrate such things on the chessboard because chess has this complexity kind of. It has different pieces, and also if you add these marks and the rotations, it's also something that is very rich, and you can express many different things. So now we still have some time, so I can add I can tell you some more stuff. Not much. We are approaching the end of the presentation. So, for example, so far I was only talking about spatial superposition when something is here and here at the same time. However, in the submicroscopic world, so superposition is the rule. So many things can be in superposition. So, for example, the position, as I mentioned before, the level of energy, the spin, and others. And for example, here you can illustrate the spin, which is not a spatial superposition. So here, for example, if you just take one of these pieces with the red mark, and then this is now spin up, and now if you turn it 180 degrees, this will be spin down. And now if you keep rotating it by some angles, then this can express superposition of the spin. So this is also possible. So it doesn't have to be spatial superposition in the classroom. Obviously, in the game, there is no such thing, but in the classroom, the teacher is free to be creative if he or she wants to represent various quantum effects on the chessboard. And then, for example, and also very important in quantum information, the so-called gates. So these are basically physical protocols which will change the amplitudes. So and then, for example, here we have the kind of the equal superposition, but with a phase, with a negative sign here, the minus sign. And then if you want to apply the X gate, what it really does is that it swaps the two amplitudes. And then how we can do it on the chessboard. So the most practical and simple way is that we just take these two pieces and just push them around. And now if we say that B4 is the 0 and D3 is the 1 state, then you can see that the amplitudes have really swapped just as it is required by the X gate. But if you want to, if you have more imagination, you can do it like an interferometer style X gate, where now the 0 state is this row 6, and and the one state is this row 3, or in chess we say rank. And now again, if we want to swap these amplitudes, what we can do is that we can just so they will just move, and now it is done, and now you can see that the amplitudes have swapped. So this is the X gate. And you can also have I don't have it here, but you can also have ideas how to do the Hadamard gate, and actually the Hadamard gate is the one which would give you some very basic example of quantum interference. So, and then the last thing in the teaching section is I call it gaps, because obviously this Niels chess, it is not a laboratory equipment, right? So it cannot just represent all the aspects of quantum mechanics. So there will be aspects, obviously, which are not covered by this game. And I show you here one, and this is the isolation aspect, because I told you that the superposition state is so extremely fragile that the slightest interaction, even if a single photon hits this knight or a single air molecule, then the superposition state will basically collapse. And that's why what is not obvious for the player, at the beginning at least, that they cannot actually see this superposition. So it would be more correct to do it like this, that they are basically in a black box, like a protection, like a sealed box, which kind of protects them from the environment, and then we just label them knight and the red mark, and knight and the blue mark. But obviously, if I did this, I mean, I don't think too many people would want to play the game. So, but here I just want to say that Niels chess represents certain aspects of quantum mechanics, but there are also important aspects that it does not represent. And of course, it can lead to kind of interpretations. And then the question is that who will clear this up if somebody misunderstands something, if somebody thinks that we can really see the knight, but in fact we cannot see the knight. We can only see maybe the labels on the box, but we cannot see the knight itself in superposition. So, and then of course the teachers and educators can explain this, and also my hope is that Niels chess will have a community, and then in the community there will be people who know more quantum physics than others, and then the community itself can just clear up any such possible misunderstandings. So, and then I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And then here you can see some YouTube video which it was basically made like many months ago. And here this is like a 2-hour one, and there I also explain some Niels chess puzzles, and there is also a conference paper the conference was in 2024, and you can also have a look at this paper. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will enjoy playing the game.
We have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Sorry. Are you developing new variants or extensions, or even maybe other games besides chess to also teach quantum concepts, but in a different setting?
Yes, this is my intention. Okay, maybe not too many variants of this game, because if I do, then people will get confused. So I try to stick with the official variant, but I also want to show educators how they can kind of tweak the rules to express other quantum effects. And so far, the only game I developed, there is also a paper about that, but it's on archive, that I did basically the same thing for Chinese chess, Xiangqi. And yes, so but yeah, so I think I will also do other games in the future.
Oh, is it popular in China? Do you know? This variant of chess?
I don't know. No, it's I guess nobody knows about it in China at the moment.
Oh,
So it is pretty new, kind of, and yeah. So I mean, Chinese chess is obviously very popular in China, and that's why I thought I can I can also make such a variant because it was more or less for free, kind of, because it is similar in the gameplay. In the gameplay, it has a board, it has pieces, they can move, so I can do the rotations to express superposition and entanglement. So it was kind of free to make. Yeah.
And another question: what practical advice can you give to educators, teachers, or curriculum developers in developing educational content for quantum computing, quantum mechanics, literally like anything related to quantum? What do you think are the best strategies?
Ooh, I'm afraid I cannot I cannot give any brilliant advices, but I think, okay, the only advice I would say is that I think such games, either Nearest Chess or other games, I think they can increase the engagement level of the students. So, for example, in this quantum in this Nearest Chess, for example, students can compete against each other, and then this can be some extra, and also obviously for those people who are active in outreach, I think it's a good idea to include games in their outreach activities. So this would be my advice, not too much, but that's what I think.
And what do you think would be the next step after mastering quantum chess, for example?
I mean, okay, so the idea is that imagine that you go to a high school and introduce this chess, and then so my hope is that it will awake the students' interest to join the quantum computing and quantum cryptography fields. So this will be the next step. So first to learn this game, even if they don't fully understand what it is about, but they will just learn it, and then later during the university, let's say, or late high school years, they can get interested in quantum information, and they could join, and then the community would be bigger. I think this would be the biggest benefit of the game. And also for the ordinary people, like not in the school, for them the benefit would be that I mean, it's there is this concept called quantum literacy, right? So and with such games, we can really spread quantum literacy worldwide, because in the future, I think quantum information technology will become very important, and people will simply have to know the basic concept, just like we know the basic concept of a smartphone, right?
Yeah, and I think even for people who are already experienced with the quantum a little, for example, myself, it's very interesting to try this variant of chess, because it's kind of game when you can practice, when you can use your knowledge and play with your fellow students and friends. Yeah.
And actually, what also comes to my mind is that what I always say, that I think this Nearest Chess variant, it somehow reflects on the development of the world in the past 30 years, because the world has become, I think, much more uncertain than it was before, and it has become more interconnected. And if you think about it, this random collapse and the entanglement, even the spatial superposition, it kind of express just these features of the world which has emerged in the past decades, basically. And that's why if you learn how to play Nearest Chess, maybe you will think in your real life, you will think more knowledgeably about chance and connections, that if you do something here, then something there will change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I'm excited to play myself, and I hope many people will also try this amazing game and learn more about quantum.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learnt something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. We invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the e-shop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for good.